am excited to bring Mr. Rick Fuller here today. Some of you guys know who he is, some of you don't. My name is John Gigi. I'm actually the chair for the education committee at DAR. And so these are some of the classes that we're bringing to you this year, and we're just excited to have Mr. Rick Fuller. And just to kind of give you a little a background of him and myself, both of us started at the same company. It was probably, well, I met you, Rick, around 21 years ago, and at that time, Rick was already a top producer, and he brought me under his wing to be his mentee. And so I've learned a lot from Rick. I mean, I was just having a conversation with him just a little earlier, and I was already taking mental notes. I'm still learning from Rick, and he's just amazing, as you're gonna encounter his method of communicating with you and teaching you and bringing you bringing to the table some of the experiences. And Rick is not only a person that can come teach things to people, he also walks the talk. He's also has had all that experience. He's a very successful realtor in the community and been doing it. I don't know, how many years have you been in real estate, Rick?
John, you mentioned 21. I think I'm right there at 21 or 22. So you
Yeah.
met me probably a year into the business.
I think so. I think so. And so I'm just really just honored to bring Rick to us today. And what he's got on the table to teach to you guys is amazing, hands down. So take out your notepads, silence your phones, and so that it doesn't distract you, and take notes, because I'll tell you, every time I have learned from Rick, it's just I'll take a little bit of something that can take my business to the next level. And I bet you guys are really interested in having that happen in your businesses, take your business to the next level. And that's what's going to happen today. So without further ado, allow me to introduce you to Mr. Rick Fuller.
Hey, thank you, John. I appreciate those kind words. And the respect, admiration, and appreciation is a mutual. John is among several of the chairmen that are on this call, and John actually chairs the education committee. And we were talking earlier about some of his dreams and goals for that role. And I think he's wanting to bring very actionable things that propel your business to the next level, propel my business to the next level. And I think this is one of them, John, because I would tell you, in the 20 plus years you and I have been working together, we've learned that most things are a waste of time in your real estate business. And there are three things that matter: the ability to generate business, the ability to convert your contacts to customers, customers to clients, clients to contracts to close, and then the ability to provide your clients the kind of experience they're excited to tell a friend about. Those are the only three things that really matter. And everything you learn and everything we do ought to be a part of those, and add value to those and help us do those things better. And it's really those three. And so we don't need to have a to-do list. We need to have a not to-do list. We need to have a not to-do list, all the other stuff that's coming our way, so we can focus on these three things that matter. So today, John, we're going to hit one of them. And that is how we go about working with buyers and how we make that easy, because the world of working with buyers has changed. And if you're not aware of that, it's changed significantly over the last several years, specifically since August of 2024 and the NAR settlement. And today we're going to talk to you about how you make that easy. There are very few scripts, but there's a lot of tracks, there's a lot of practices, there's a lot of processes that we're going to roll out to you today. And then I'll give you a bunch of free gifts if you hang out till the end, and we'll announce our next course. So let me share my screen without further ado. John and all those at DAR, Jean, Tanya, and Christina, and so many others who helped put this together. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We appreciate you and all that you do on behalf of our members. So for the officers that are here from the Delta Association of Realtors, thank you for your service. Or those running for office, thank you for your service to the local community. It is a very selfless job. You put in hour after hour after hour, and often nobody acknowledges that. And I just got to tell you, thank you for your service to us as the community, the real estate community. Thank you for your service to the homeowner. You realize, without some of the people that are on this call today, you realize that the homeowner, when they went to sell the house, they'd have point of sale ordinances, they'd have fees, they'd have fines, they'd have all these things that our our local association of realtors, our statewide association of realtors, our national association of realtors allows the benefit of home ownership and the transfer of home ownership to remain unbundled, uncluttered, and untaxed. And that is huge. So thank you for all of that. Let's jump right into the course today. You came because you want to learn how to make buyer representation easier. We're going to go for about 45 minutes. Then I'm going to give you a bunch of free tools and resources if you hang out till the end. We're going to have a little fun along the way. And so I hope that's okay. Let me share my screen with you. One moment here. It's not that screen. You want that one. Give me a thumbs up if you're seeing my screen, please. There we go. Okay, guys, I'm Rick Fuller. I'm local. I'm one of your local real estate brokers right here in the community. And as John said, we've been doing this for over 20 years. I've been a member of the Delta Association of Realtors for over 20 years. And really honored to be with you and to be able to share some thoughts with you on how to make the buyer representation easier. Listen, this is probably one of the most important adoptions that you can make is adopting your processes and procedures so that we can work with more buyers. We lose less buyers because of our inefficiencies, because we weren't paying attention, because we wrote something down on a cocktail napkin and then we're trying to remember where was that person at and what was their name and what was their phone number, and I can't read whether that was a C or a D on my handwriting. And this is a process that's going to make your life so much easier. And by show of hands, how many people have seen this movie? This is Brad Pitt, Moneyball. If you're not familiar with it, it is based on a true story. Yep, that's Brad Pitt. He plays Billy Beane. And Billy Beane was the general manager of the Oakland A's back in the early 2000s, like 2002. And they were getting beat up in 2001. They lost to the Indians and they lost Jason Giambi. Many of you kind of watched the Oakland A's or the San Francisco Giants, so you saw this take place. Their budget was slashed in 2002. Like they had very small budget, one of the smallest budgets of all major league franchises. And Brad Pitt, who plays Billy Beane, goes to the Indians and he meets a guy by the name of Peter Brand. And Peter Brand had a theory or a philosophy called the sabermetric philosophy. Here's was his idea. His idea is that if we stopped focusing on hitting home runs and we focused our energy on being a base hitter, and we attracted people that were good base hitters, we would be more successful in his organization and we would spend a lot less money on salaries, because at that time, the ones who were getting the big salaries were the home run hitters that everybody watched. They took this philosophy, they went in both feet. They started eliminating players that were great home run hitters and started focusing on players that could get on base. Their on base percentage was like all that mattered. Fast forward to the end of 2002, the Oakland A's score big. They go to the Major American League Finals, the championship. They have a phenomenal story. They go 20 games in a row as a winning streak, all by being a base hitter. Why do I tell you that? And why do I start the story with this baseball metaphor? Because you and I, the key to our success in working with buyers and how you and I make this easier is we've got to be base hitters, not home run hitters. And the average real estate agent is so focused, and I have been there too, on being a home run hitter that they don't even think about the process associated with moving your buyer around the bases. So the first thing that you and I need to do to make working with buyers and buyer representation easier is we need to have a process. We need to identify where the base is and how to move our clients around these bases. And I call this the OSP, the organized sales process. And the reason I wanted to teach this course and I offered it to John is because it made such a fundamental difference in our business. I was so much a home run hitter. I would meet people, I'd write it down on a napkin, I'd write it down on a business card. Sometimes it went into the CRM. I'm embarrassed to tell you, sometimes it didn't go in the CRM. And what I discovered is that most people are not ready to buy a home month one, maybe not month 2, maybe not month 3, maybe not month 4. And if you don't have a process that nurtures them all the way for several years out, you are going to let these buyers and sellers go right through your fingertips. And it happens time and time again. We actually built a department called our concierge, or what some of you know it as an ISA department, as a result of understanding that there is a process and we're not about hitting home runs, we're about hitting base hits. And when we understood this, wow, it took so much pressure off. I'm not trying to get someone around the home plate. I just need to get them to first base, then to second, then to third, then to fourth. And the difference between baseball and real estate is with baseball, you can only put one person on a base at a time. But there is nothing wrong with having 50 customers and 25 clients and maybe 10 or 12 in contract and bringing people around home plate and closing escrows on a daily or a weekly basis. There's nothing wrong with that in our real estate business. As a matter of fact, it's encouraged, it's supported, and it's how we ought to think about our business. So maybe think of me for the next, I don't know, 30 minutes or so as your base coach. And I'm going to coach you around the bases, and then we're going to go deep on what it means to go from second to third base, or from first to second base, rather. What does it mean to actually make that customer a client with the buyer representation agreement? Because that's what's changed in our industry. All right, let's start around the bases and we'll kind of work through these. You're welcome to take screenshots as we go through. I strongly suggest you do, and then I'll send you out some free resources at the end. Here's step one. It's a contact. It's a contact. Now, maybe you met somebody at a grocery store. Maybe you met a buyer at an open house. Maybe they're a neighbor, a family friend, maybe someone for your sphere of influence. Even a past client or a current client can be a contact. Usually, a contact, you might have a name, you might have a phone number, you might understand their level of interest, but usually you're missing something in this component. You don't have everything that you need to make them a customer. You only have a name, or you only have a phone number, or you only have an email address. And so you're kind of incomplete when it comes to the tools and resources that you need to make them a customer. And our suggested script when you meet a contact, like at a grocery store or in an open house, is what we call the If I Found script. The If I Found script. And if I could role play it with a couple of you, I'll just pick somebody up. Robert, I see you're paying close attention, so I'm going to call on you. Can I role play with you just real quick? Robert, I see you looking
Yes,
for the unmute.
that's
There we
correct.
go. Robert, so if you're a contact and we met, I don't know, we're in line at the grocery store, and I'm going to use the If I Found script or conversation to help understand whether you may be a good fit for a customer. So, Robert, it might sound something like this. If we met in a grocery store, we talked a little about real estate, you saw my name badge, you saw my shirt, it said our company name, whatever, it says your company name. I might say, hey, Robert, if I found a home that fit exactly what you're looking for, would it be okay if I give you a call? And you would say, Robert,
Sure, sure. I have the time for that.
okay, great. And so, very, very simple. I could do this at an open house. You're at an open house and you tour through the property. And I say, Robert, if I found a home that fit exactly what you're looking for, could I give you a call? And what I have found is the vast majority of people say, yes, give me a call if you find exactly what I'm looking for. That's what they're out searching for. So we're going to begin to look for a property. How can you do this? You can jump on the MLS. You can go to Broker Tour. You can go to the HUD Home Store. You can go to Home Path. Like there's so many different ways that you can go out and find this property. And you could add some commentary. You know, Robert, you might add, well, I work for a large brokerage and I'm always getting good deals come across my desk. I'm just curious if I found a home that fit exactly what you're looking for, could I give you a call? And the vast majority of people, just like Robert, are going to say yes. And then I've got to ask a follow up question and say, Robert, what exactly are you looking for? And Robert's going to say, what would you say, Robert, if I said, what are you looking for in a home?
Well, I'm looking for a home with a three-car garage, four bedrooms minimum, three bath, and in a large yard
And
in the Antioch area.
all right. And the vast majority of people respond exactly like the way Robert does. And Robert did it just as I've seen countless people do this. They'll say 3 bedroom, 2 bath. They'll say Robert said 4 bedroom. Robert said 3 car garage. Said the city of Antioch. And your job in the contact phase is you got to go a little deeper. Nobody gets excited about a 3 bedroom or a 4 bedroom. But I might ask, well, Robert, what's important to you about a 3 car garage? And you'd say, Robert,
Well, I have a hobby, and I would like the garage for my hobbies.
yeah.
And So it'd be important for me to have that.
And Robert, do you have kids that go to school in Antioch, or do you work in Antioch? What makes it
I
important?
work in Antioch, and my grandchild, I help raising her, and so I need the yard for her for her to play in.
So I love this because this goes a little deeper. Now we go from the objective to the subjective. Objective is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Objective is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. City of Antioch. We go a little more subjective. What do we learn about Robert? He's got a hobby. What do we learn about Robert? He's got a grandchild that he likes to take care of and he spends time with. What that he likes, maybe a yard to play in, and these are things that are important. He wants the city of Antioch. And now I'm going to be able to use that information later on because I've listened to clearly to what Robert wants, and I'm able to follow up with what we call the Jim call script. The Jim call script would be, Robert, if I can continue to role play with you, I'd pick up the phone and I'd give you a call and say, ring, ring, and Robert, you'd answer.
Hi, how are you?
Good, Robert. This is Rick Fuller, and I'm giving you a call. We met at that open house this past weekend, and you said if I found a home that fit exactly what you're looking for, I could give you a call. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Awesome, Robert. I found a real gem of a property today, and it's got a 3-car garage because I know you like your activities, and I know you like spending time with your grandchild, and so it's got a big backyard. Maybe it's close proximity to a park. And I'm going to be in that area today around 3 o'clock, or would 4 be better? Robert, would you happen to be available at that time to pop by and see it?
Yeah, sure. I can make arrangements for that. I'd love to take a look at it. If, I think I'll bring my wife also to take a look at the property.
Sounds great, Robert. I'll see you then.
Thank you.
So thank you, Robert, for role playing with me. And the most important part of this is that information, if I found a home that fit exactly what you're looking for, implies Robert's willing to let me give him a call with the right property. It'd be weird for me to say, great, what number do you want me to call you at, Robert? And Robert's like, no, I don't want you to have my phone number. Well, Robert, if I had digital pictures or videos or virtual tours or Mataports of the property, could I email it to you? No, I don't want you to have my email. It'd be weird for him to say that. It'd also be weird or awkward for Robert to say, Rick, yes, I want you to look for a property for me, but I already have an agent. So yeah, just continue. Like if he already has an agent, he's going to be working with that agent. So it implies initially that Robert may not have an agent that he's working with. He didn't say, no, I'm already working with somebody. No, thank you. There's no need to give me a call. I'm perfectly fine. I've got that taken care of. He said, no, reach out to me if you found a home that fit exactly what we're looking for. And the final thing it implies is that Robert's looking to buy or sell a property now or in the near future. And all of that to me makes Robert a customer. He gives me a name, a phone number, an email address. He wants to buy now or in the near future or sell now or in the near future. And he has not or is not working with another real estate agent. And that makes him a customer. He's not a lead. He's not a prospect. He's a human being. He's a grandpa, right? Do they call you that grandpa? Do they call you grandpa or they call you papa or what do they call you, Robert?
They call me grandpa. They call me abuelito, and and so I get both names.
But they don't call you a lead. They don't call you a prospect. You're a person and
Right,
you're a human being
right.
and you are potentially now a customer. And so it doesn't mean that Robert's exclusive to me. I haven't dug that far in, but Robert now in our terms, Robert is now qualified as on base one. We met at the open house. We met at the grocery store. I was walking down the street, walking the dog, and I talked to Robert and said, if I found, and Robert's identified himself as a customer. And now I need to determine if Robert can be a client. So I'm going to say, Robert, I know, and right now, John, you and I were talking about all the homes that are for sale in the city of Antioch, and there's a lot more homes there than there were a year ago. And I'm going to say, John, we're seeing an increase. I'm going to say, Robert, we're seeing an increase of inventory of property, and there's more homes on the market to choose from than ever before. Robert, I would love to meet with you and your wife, and we can just narrow down the properties that are select and right for you. And can we meet at my office at 4 o'clock, or would 5 be better in order to discover what you truly are looking for and how I can best help? Robert, would that be fair enough for you? And you'd say,
Yes, so that would be fine. I would love to meet with you in person. I'm going to add this, Rick. At the last meeting at the coffee, I used what you said about if I found the right property. And I did it with family members. And I did it with my wife. And she's going, what are you talking about? I go, well, if I found a house that was perfect for you. And so she let me know she wanted it in Brentwood. She wanted, you know, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, and the only thing I have to buy it, but but it really works. People love that, you know. You're asking them exactly what they want. They love to say it, you know.
And
It,
you know why it works for you and I, Robert, as professionals? Because it's real and it's genuine and it's authentic. It's not a manipulative script. It's not based on, oh yeah, the homeowner said you had to write your name down at this open house because I had to give him a log, and then you never really had to give him a log. Or I
right,
want to make sure the homeowner doesn't think I'm golfing today, so put your name and listen, and I follow back up with you. It's authentic, it's real, it's genuine, and it cuts to the core of what they want. And
right.
if we had more time, I would dig into, tell me about why that is important to you, Robert, and what that looks like for you, and why would you want that? And tell me more about it. So I could really call and say, wow, I found a real gem today. And John's got a listing up the street. And can I show it to you this afternoon, or would tomorrow be better? But the fact that Robert's identified himself as a name, phone number, email address, wants to buy now or in the near future, have not earned on an agent, makes him a customer. And now I'm going to meet with him, maybe at the office, maybe prior to going out and looking at a property, and I'm going to talk to him about becoming a client. And so that's when Robert then signs the buyer representation agreement. And I'm going over that really quick right now because we're going to dive deep into that one next. What does that look like to have a buyer representation appointment? What do you do and how do you do it? And why would a buyer want to sign? And that the client culminates in a buyer rep. Now, John, if you and I were out shopping for a big screen TV, we're customers. We can go to Costco, we can go to Walmart, we can go to Target, we can go to Best Buy, we can go to wherever. But the moment you and I hire an attorney or a CPA or a mechanic to work on our car and you sign a work order, you and I are clients of that attorney or clients of that CPA. Do you realize how crazy it would be for you and I to go and hire 3 CPAs to do our taxes or 3 mechanics to work on your car? Or 3 lawyers to represent you in whatever capacity? It'd be silly. It'd be crazy. We don't do it that way. We have lots of stores we might shop in for a flat screen TV, but we only hire one attorney, one CPA, one mechanic. You and I need to think more like the professional industries and have clients. And the difference between a client and a customer is a buyer representation agreement. The difference between a seller client and a customer is a listing agreement. It's a listing contract. Hire me to sell your home. You and I would never take a seller listing without a listing agreement. Not only does it give you the approval and authorization to do what you need to do to the property, to market, advertise it, promote it, but it also spells out your compensation. And you and I are no longer able to work with a buyer without a buyer representation agreement, because that too needs to spell out your roles, your responsibilities, their obligations, and it needs to spell out your compensation. And that becomes a client when they sign the buyer rep or a listing agreement, because you have a seller client, because this works for both sellers and buyers. And now that I have a client, I need them to go into contract. What does that look like? Well, we need to find a property. We need to write an offer. We need to get an offer accepted. We need to have a bona fide buyer and a bona fide seller. We need to bring these two together. And sometimes that can be some of the most challenging parts of our job. You have a seller that wants the highest price. You want the buyer that wants the lowest price, and it's you and I stuck right in the middle of them, right? And so we need to move our clients into contract. We're going to teach a course in a couple of months on negotiation, and we'll show you how to do that and to be able to negotiate good contracts. But it's about getting your client into contract. And then finally, it's about bringing them across home plate and closing escrow. And usually you're going to need a lot of good communication to go from contract to close. What does it mean in an increasing inventory market to communicate clearly about the market, about expectation, about requests for repairs, about appraisals that are moving all over the place? And that's our job, to be able to articulate clearly what that looks like. And this becomes your basis. This becomes you and I saying, we're not going to be home run hitters anymore. We are going to be base hitters. We're going to move our clients around the process because it's a better experience for the consumer and it's a better experience for the real estate professional. I want to take a moment and I want to switch to what it looks like to go deep from client to contract. And the reason I want to do that is because of the NAR settlement. You and I do not have the ability to skip second base anymore. You do realize that. There was a time where agents said, I don't use a buyer representation agreement. And statistically, and this is according to the National Association of Realtors, 65% of agents were not using a buyer representation agreement. So this is one of the reasons we think this class is so important for you and I, is because so many agents are not accustomed. They don't have it in their techniques and skill sets and in their toolbox in order to move their customers to clients. They just have a customer that somebody met at an open house, and they're looking for a property as fast as they can, trying to hit that home run. And in this case, we must have a written agreement before we show property to a buyer as a result of the NAR settlement. And this is approved, this is in place. And the second thing you needed was we could not advertise commission on the MLS. And there's some things that they're working out and how that's all going to play out. But we need to have a written agreement. So what does it look like to effectively move customers to clients? And I'm going to give you a 4-part track. And I don't want you to think of this one like a script. You know, the if I found is a script. The Jim call thing is a script. This one is a track. And what do I mean by a track? Well, you're working with real people, and they're going to take the situation and the conversation in a variety of different ways. But I just need you to keep it on track. How many times have you gone to an appointment with a buyer or seller? You spend the first 30 to 45 minutes catching up. Haven't seen you in so long. You know, how are the family? How are the kids? And there's a place for that. But if you park too long there, especially for a high D drive personality, you're going to burn them up. And you'll never get to a point where you can make a decision. And so when you have a customer, name, phone number, email address, want to buy now or in the near future, have not or are not an agent, and we need to produce them to be a client of ours with a written agreement, there are 4 steps you're going to go through to do that. Here they are. Number 1, you're going to lead in. Number 2, you're going to investigate. Number 3, you're going to show and share your value. And number 4 is you're going to tie down or get a decision. Have them make some form of a decision. Maybe it's a yes, maybe it's a no, maybe it's a maybe. That's okay. I'll talk to you about how to do all of that, but it needs to be a 4-part process. When you follow this track, when you're meeting with some people and they want to move quicker, it ensures you get the right steps. And when you're meeting with some people and they're okay with it going on for a little longer and building rapport and building relationship, you know how to kind of guide it and direct it along a track in order to accomplish these 4 things. Let me walk you through what these 4 might look like. The first step, and they're in sequential order, is you're going to lead in. If you're going to an appointment, in this case, we're talking about a buyer representation, that could happen prior to showing a listing. It could happen in your office, could happen, I suppose, at a coffee shop. It could happen via Zoom. It could happen at their kitchen table. There's all kinds of places this can happen, but you need to lead in. Still today, in 2025, people hire people that they know, like, and trust. And if you skip the lead-in part because you're in a hurry, you're too busy, you don't have time to build a little bit of relationship equity, that you're so focused on, the IQ that you don't spend any time with the emotional quotient and build a little bit of relationship, you will lose. Because the right DISC personality, DISC personality, craves that relationship. They want to work with someone that they like. This is why you often hear somebody say something like, I hired them because, well, they're a nice person. And what they're really saying is, I really liked working with them. I really think we can work with them. I really feel comfortable around them. So this opportunity to build a relationship has to be first. And if you're in their house, or you know something about them, or your friends on Facebook, I hope you have a whole host of things you can talk about to build rapport. Maybe you saw on Facebook and Robert talked about his grandkids. Maybe you have a way to build rapport there. Or maybe Robert talked about living in the city of Antioch, and I lived in the city of Antioch, and I went to Antioch schools, and our office is in Antioch, or whatever it is for you, right? but there's a way to make a connection. And it's not weird or awkward. It's just an opportunity to build that relationship. I call it lead in because you're leading into the discussion. It's so critical that you spend some time to do this. And you have to evaluate, typically based on the personality, how long you should do this. Maybe it's only a couple of moments. Or maybe you need a good 15 minutes in the conversation to build rapport, catch up. Hey, haven't seen you in a while. How you doing? How's the family? Great to connect with you. And for some people who are a little more introverted, like you said, Rick, I have a hard time with that. I meet somebody in a networking event, and it's just kind of weird or awkward. Oftentimes people use an acronym called FORD, and it's been around for a very long time, but it's still extremely effective. And if you need help with lead in, getting to know your client, building that rapport, building that relationship, maybe using family or occupation or recreation or dreams, that's FORD. Maybe you just remembering that. Say, hey, how's the family? How's work going? I noticed that you had a boat in the side yard. Have you done any boating this summer? Right? Like these are all opportunities to build that relationship. And then we move to investigation. If you're on a listing, it's really easy because we typically tour the property and it's an opportunity to investigate the property. But if you're working with a buyer, you're going to have to investigate the needs of the buyer. It is so important that we take the time to do this right. Every statement ends now with a question mark. It's not an exclamation mark. It's not even a comma or a period, or it's not an opportunity to sell us or sell our company or sell our brand or sell our franchise. It's an opportunity to say, hey, what are you trying to accomplish? And I'm going to give you several ways that you can do this just based on what you feel most comfortable with. I love the way that Zillow does this investigation stage. They do it through a process called LP Mama. LP Mama. They focus on, let's start with location. Then we'll talk about the price of the property that you're looking at. Then we're going to talk about your motivation. Why are you doing that? We learned from Robert that he wants to have more time with his grandkids. That's a motivation. Maybe there are others. We're going to discover what that motivation is. We're going to talk about availability. Robert, are you available on the weekends or the evenings, or does the morning work better? Are you generally available if a really good deal comes on the market? Can you be available quickly, or do I need to schedule some time with you in advance? I'm going to talk about mortgage, or do we need to get pre-approved? Do we need to introduce you to a lender? Have you already gone through that process? And then we're going to schedule a follow-up appointment of when we can start looking at those properties. And that's LP Mama: location, price, motivation, availability, mortgage, and availability appointment. And that process can be used in this investigation stage to understand what's going on with Robert, what his needs are, what he wants to accomplish, and how we can best help. Another way you could do it is to start broad. When I asked Robert his questions, he says, I want the city of Antioch, and I want 4 bedrooms. And I could start narrowing it down and saying, well, Robert, do you want off of Hillcrest, or you want Lone Tree? Do you want 94509 or 94531? Where communities do you like? Like, I'm starting broad and I'm starting to narrow. Now let's talk about the home. You want a big lot? You want a small lot? Let's talk about the actual proximity. Is it close to schools? Is it close to a park? Is it close to, a walking trail? Is it close to Contra Loma, East Bay Regional Park? What is it? Like, I'm going to ask him all these questions because I want to understand what his true motivations are. And it gives me a great opportunity to follow up with a gem call script. But I can start broad. I can go even narrower and say, let's talk about the property. You said a 4-bedroom. Would 3 and a den work? Do you need the 4th bedroom to be downstairs? Is that a necessity, right? Like, I'm going broad and I'm going narrower and narrower. Let's talk about the kitchen. Let's talk about the bathrooms. Let's talk about the backyard. The more information I can get in the I phase of investigate, the more detail I can get, the more effective I'm going to be at finding Robert the right property in the right amount of time with the least amount of inconvenience. And that's what most buyers are looking for today. And so we start with this eye of investigating. You can go buyers' needs. We can investigate the financials. We can investigate their timeline. Robert, are you in a lease, or do we need to sell a property first to buy one? Is it a 1031 exchange? Where are they at with the relinquished property before we do the replace? Like, there's a lot here in this investigation, but everything ends in a giant question mark. And when we do this well, we're armed with the tools and resources to follow up and find great property, not send an auto email with the MLS so that they just get everything, but to be able to actually call and say, I've got a great property. It fits this and this and this and this of your criteria. Can you and your wife be available later on today, or would tomorrow be better? And then, well, let me give you one more strategy and investigate. If LP Mama doesn't work for you, or you don't like starting broad and working narrow, another one is you could use the 5 W's and the H. Who will be buying? Why buy? When do you want to buy? Where do you want to buy? What do you want to buy? And then how are we going to buy it? Like, you can use the 5 W's and the 1 H to kind of refine what they're looking for and purely understand their motivations so that we could represent them properly. When we go through this process, we will clearly have a good pulse of what our clients are looking for, and it'll actually make it easier at the point of showing. And when they get frustrated, wow, I can't find that right property, we didn't get our offer accepted, to remind them what they're trying to accomplish. Robert, I know it's a priority for you to spend more time with your grandkids. Let's keep the course. We can stay the course because, Robert, we don't want to give up on that goal. That's what really matters to you. It's what matters to me. It's why you hired me, to help you find the right home. Let's not give up. Let's keep going. And finally, we do show and share. This is after the investigation stage. We show and share our value. So after Robert or whoever you're meeting with has described all the things that they're looking for in a property and in the process, and you've done the LP Mama and you've done the 5 W's and the H, and you've started broad and you've gone narrow into what they're looking for, now it's an opportunity for you to share how you can help. And this is an area where agents, especially on the buyer side, have really struggled with. How do I articulate my value? What value do I have? And of course, my favorite way is for you to actually quantify your negotiation ability and start tracking. Do you write an offer, and every time you write an offer, you typically are able to save your buyer or save your seller when you list? Do you save them time? Do you save them energy? And do you save them money? When you negotiate a request for repairs, or do you average, 5,000, or is it 7,000, or is it 10,000? Can you keep track of that? Can you shorten the process? And instead of showing on average 10 homes, maybe you show 7 or 8 because you're more efficient. It's a great way to show your value. There's another way you can do it, and it's a great tool that I hope more and more of you are using, and it's through AI. This is actually through ChatGPT, and this is a prompt that I wrote for you. And let me see if I can drop into the chat box. I will have this sent out. I'll have it sent out to you. A couple of documents that'll be very helpful to you. The most effective way to use ChatGPT is to ask it a smart question. Because if you ask AI a dumb question, you get a dumb answer. So your ability and my ability to ask a smart question. So here's an example. I like what I call the 4 R's. So I always give it a role I want it to play. In this case, I'm asking it to be a professional real estate agent. Then I give it a resource. I don't want it to go look on TikTok and Instagram and, all throughout all of the YouTube video library from the decades. I want to give it a resource that I think is of value. In this case, I'm giving it 179 ways agents can add value. If you don't have this document, it is huge. This was produced a couple of years ago by NAR. They ran it in the New York Times in a full-page article. It's 179 ways that real estate agents can add value. So if you're questioning, well, I don't know what to say when it comes to how I can provide value, NAR's already identified 179 ways you and I can provide value. And then I'm going to tell it what I want it to do. I call that my request. So I want to give it a role. I want to give it a resource. I want to make a request. And then I usually have some requirements. In this case, I want to make these one-liners. I want to make them simple. I want to make them easy to use. And I'm going to start it with a did you know? So their AI will now take this information and it'll immediately publish how I can articulate to my buyer customer how I can offer value. This prompt reads, as a professional real estate agent referring to the attached 179 ways agents can add value, provide me with 5 concise 1-sentence responses that I can share with prospective buyers or sellers, each one line response should start with, did you know, and clearly convey the value of using a real estate agent, focusing on being educational or informational rather than promotional. Sometimes AI, it's a little too salesy for me. It's a little bit too sleazy for I just want the meat. I want the steak. I don't want any vegetables. Tell me, based on the 179 ways I can add more value in my market and with my clients, and how I can add this value. And this is an incredible tool to help you show and share your value as a real estate agent to your clients. Here's another one that I like, and this one is more pertaining to commission. This one is how you can negotiate your commission, and it is a chat GPT that Chris Voss put together from his book, Never Split the Difference. And if you've not read that book, that's a powerful read on how you and I can become a better negotiator from an FBI hostage negotiator. And so this GPT is in there. It's at Chat GPT. Just go to a different GPT rather than your GPT 4.0. You're going to use this one. And then you can upload those 179 ways, and you could say, acting as a negotiation coach, Chat GPT, using the principles found in Never Split the Difference and the attached 179 ways I can earn every penny. How can I better articulate my value and negotiate my commission rate? ChatGPT is going to come and it's going to role play with you, or it's going to give you like a one-page script on how you can better articulate your value. So when we're talking about how we go about showing and sharing our value, we can integrate some GPTs to help make this easier for you. Your value proposition might be a little different than mine, and that's okay. So hopefully these tools and resources will help you. And the final step in this process as we land this plane is you're going to get a tie down, or you're going to get a decision. Now, if I was going to role play, let me see if I can find somebody else I can role play with. I see Wendy is there. Hi, Wendy.
Hi, Rick. I knew you were going to call on me.
I know. I scrolled down a few. I saw you there. And so Wendy and I have worked together for a long time. So she probably knows what I'm going to say before I even say it. But if I'm working with Wendy and I've gone through the lead-in process and I've investigated the needs of her and Purnell, and then I've shown and shared our value about how I can help and help them find a home in the least amount of time, with reasonable amount of inconvenience, and get them the best price, then I'm going to say something like, Wendy, would you like to hire me? And Wendy would say,
no. No. Yes, I would say, yeah, I really appreciate all the time that you've given me and laid out the process for me. And I would feel comfortable with that. But what does that actually mean?
And then I'm going to walk Wendy through a buyer representation agreement. And if you go through the lead, investigate, show, share, and tie down process, usually you'll get a yes. But sometimes, and Wendy was giving me a hard time, and says no. And sometimes that happens. And that's okay. Because if Wendy is already working with another real estate agent, she's got her own buyer rep with another agent, I don't want to tie up my car this weekend or my time slot this weekend to show her property. I want to know that up front. Or if Wendy says, oh, Rick, I'm really not serious about buying and we're in a lease and we're going to be staying put I want to know that. Or if Wendy were to say, I'm just not an advocate of owning real estate at this time, I want to know that. And so this, would you like to hire me, followed by a pause. And what I see real estate agents do all too often is they'll say something like, would you like to hire me? I know you have other options. I know you probably talk to other agents. I know I'm new, or I know I've been around this for a long time, or I know I don't have the availability, or I know I don't have this or that, or I'm tall or too short or whatever. And they start talking themselves out of a commitment. In this case, I'm going to say, Wendy, would you like to hire me? And I'm going to zip my mouth. And I'm going to let Wendy make a decision on whether I'm a good fit. If she says no, that's okay, and I'll find out. Well, that's great. Let's learn more about that. And if she says maybe and says, well, let me talk to Purnell and I'll get back to you tomorrow, I might say, great, can I follow up with you tomorrow at 2, or would 3 be better? If I need to pray about it, I need to think about it, I need to sleep on it. Okay, great. Can I follow up with you at 9 a.m. tomorrow, or would 10 be better? I'm just going to follow up with her and stay in conversation with Wendy. And usually what will happen is I'll follow up with Wendy and I'll say, Wendy, I know we met yesterday and you wanted to think about it. You wanted to pray about it. You wanted to talk to your spouse about it. You wanted to sleep on it. Wendy, I wanted to follow back up with you. Did you decide you wanted to move forward? Would you like to get the ball rolling, or would you like to hire us? And the vast majority of times when we've done this process well, they come back and say yes. I have discovered that the vast majority of people that say no to a buyer representation agreement, it's often because of not the buyer's not ready. It's because we short-circuited the process. We left out the I, we left out the S, we left out the T. We didn't build enough equity, build enough relationship equity. And this is our opportunity to follow a process of moving our customers to clients through the lead-in, investigate, show, share, and tie down. Well, we're running out of time. I have so much more I could share on this topic, but I want to give you some tools and resources. You're going to receive an email later on today, and Christina is going to send out a 30-day free access to the agent management portal. Everything I've shared with you has been put in video, and we're also going to throw in a couple other courses. It's a $260 value. There's zero obligation. This is simply designed to help provide tools and resources. We're also going to drop in the SOI module. It kind of looks like this. This is how it'll come across. It's also called the Agent Management Portal from Icenhower Coaching and Consulting. We got approval to do this. And there, again, no obligation. It's a 30-day free trial access to this material. I suggest you download all the books. I suggest you download all the audios. I suggest you get all the information and review it. You'll find it to be extremely helpful. And maybe take this last 35 to 40 minutes we've been together and really take it to the next level. Finally, John, we're going to be back at this, but we're going to do it live. And we're going to do a free negotiation course. This will be powerful. You will leave with a CNS designation, a Certified Negotiation Specialist designation. This one's August 27th. It's 11 a.m. It's at the Delta Association of Realtors, so we'll be there together. We did this one in December, and a lot of you were a part of it. Thank you. But we sold this one out. We used both sides of the room. There was no additional availability. It was packed. And so I'm hopeful that each of you will RSVP as the link's available and join us August 27th to learn about negotiations. Today, hopefully you got the tools, the resources to make working with buyers easier.
Awesome, Rick. That was amazing. Even in this little time that we have, you have shared some amazing tips. I was taking notes. I have several pages here. And for me personally, it's just been in the business for 21 years, and you just kind of like, sometimes you just get into this mode of operation where it just becomes very mundane, right? And then you lose track of kind of positioning yourself where you're a professional. And the thing that I took away from this for me personally is really setting up your business so that it's not a hobby, it's a professional business, right? I love the analogy where you shared about, working with different attorneys, working with different type of, services, different servicing companies, and they all have you sign a contract. They all have you be committed to something. And why can't we do it? Right. And I think more so, you're right. It's like, I remember we've taught, the BRBC, use the BRBC to many agents, and very little agents would do it. And I think it was out of fear. And so a question, I want to start off Q&As for everybody here. Just please raise your hand if you have a question using the Zoom tool, and then we'll go ahead and answer your question to the best of our ability and with some little time that we have here. And so my question is, when we hear a lot of these tips and tools and teachings to better our business, the fear that I've experienced in many agents, including myself early on in my career, is if I do this, I'm going to lose the client, right? It's like, if I operate this way, if I use a script, if I stand firm on price, I'm going to lose the client. What would you say to somebody that kind of struggles with that?
Great question, John. I would tell you, John, you don't have a client. You have a customer. And that customer, maybe you got a name, a phone number, an email address. Maybe you think they want to buy, but they're not committed to you. They're not exclusive to you. And we're operating like we're Walmart, right? Like shop around. We have the lowest price. Instead of a professional industry where we say, John, would you like to hire me to be exclusive? And I think a year ago, there was the opportunity you could run your business that way. Today, it is not an option. You do that, you're going to get sued. You do that, you're going to violate your code of ethics as a real estate professional, and you're going to put yourself and your brokerage in a very awkward place. So I would tell you, we don't have a choice but to learn how to better work with our clients, make the customer a client with a representation agreement, and then to work more systematically. And if you do this, it'll be a benefit to them because you'll get really good at communicating this message. And it'll be a benefit to you because you won't have a sales job, John. You won't be running around, you'll be running a business. And they are two fundamentally different things.
That's good. Don't have a sales business. That's powerful. And I love when you said at the very end, do you want to hire me? I think there's power in that word, right? Because then now it puts the customer in that position. I'm going to say client now, right? Because that's what you're leading to. I love that. The difference in that is it puts the client in that position to like, oh, I'm hiring this person. I'm making that decision. And then it takes that relationship to a whole other level, right? And I love the list framework that you created. That was awesome. Really appreciate you and your time and everything that you have shared with us. Now, do we have any questions from anybody in the audience? I know there's somebody out there, and that's okay if you're like, well, I don't know, I kind of want to ask the question. I'm a little fearful. It's okay. That's all normal. Please take the time right now and ask that question because that answered question could really change your life and change your business.
I have a question. My question is, let's say you made a contact and you want to turn them into a client. Um, what is the minimum time, let's say for a buyer purchase agreement, what is the minimum time that you make the contract for? Some people are adverse, they're not going to go to an attorney with a contract. They don't sign contracts. They're a little uneasy about doing that. But uh, could I say, well, sign it for a month so I could show you a few houses so I could represent you? Is that possible? Or is there a minimum amount of time?
Yeah, the actual new buyer representation agreement gives a variable options. You could hire them for a period of time to show a particular property. Now, what I like is to be able to articulate that I can be a buyer representative. And that means, Robert, that means that you might like 123 Main Street, or I might find you 125 Main Street or 127 Main Street. And regardless of the property that you choose, I'm interviewing for the job of being your representative. So I could represent your best interest and show you any home that's available. And so with that in mind, Robert, there's all kinds of different options, and every broker may have their own preference on how they want to see agents do that. My preference as a fellow broker is I always say, do what's in the best interest of your client. If it's in your best interest of your client that you make a commitment for a year, make a commitment for a year. And if it's in your best interest of a client, they're like, well, I'm looking at your market, and I'm looking at this market, and I'm looking at that market. Let's do a first 30 days in our market. I'm not opposed to that. I think that our North Star, Robert, is the consumer. I don't think it's the industry. I don't think it's agents. I don't think it's technology. I think the buyer is our North Star. We follow the North Star to do what's right and genuine for our clients. And when we do, we build a business that other people want to tell others about, and it just begets more business. And the moment we get distracted and we start doing things because an industry wants us to do it, or technology, or somebody on TikTok does it this way, keep the consumer your North Star. Do what's in their best interest. You do that, you win. And you don't just become a realtor for their transaction. You become a realtor for all of their transactions. Like they buy their first home and their move up home and their move down home and their investment properties. And then you become a generational realtor. You don't just represent them, you represent their family and their kids and their parents and their siblings, and you represent their whole neighborhood. And so I think if we follow that principle, you win. And you build a business that continually begets new customers.
Awesome. Anybody else? Bueller? All right. Awesome. Well, if we don't have anybody else, we'll go ahead and bring this to an end. Let's just give a round of applause. In fact, if you guys can do this, just unmute yourself and just give a huge thank you to Rick Fuller. We appreciate you for coming out here and hanging out with us for this time. We look forward to the negotiation class. I missed it last time. I heard it was phenomenal. Like Rick said, it was packed. It took on both rooms. So I highly encourage you guys. You know, if you're kind of like wondering, well, I'm not quite there yet. You're there. We're all there, and I think you're going to get a lot out of this class. So please go and sign up once. I think the link is going to be provided before it gets filled up, because that one got filled up really, really quick. We thank you. We thank you for your time. It's good seeing you guys. And go out there and just make it happen. Build your business and apply these principles and these tools. I guarantee you, I've known Rick for a long time, and everything he teaches is solid. It is really solid, and it comes from the heart. And he's a very genuine individual. So take care, be amazing, enjoy this beautiful day, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care, guys.
Bye, everybody.
See you later.
Next time.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Bye. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you, Rick.
Bye.